a study. We've been going through Gospels right now. And this week we were looking at Mark, and today we switched to Luke. So I'm not going to give really a whole lot of insight into that one today, but I was looking at Mark, and part of the purpose of this study is for us to see the book of the New Testament as a whole instead of the books separated out, if that makes sense. So we're looking at the whole picture of Jesus coming, his redemption, what he does on the cross, church's development, all the way through to what's going to happen in the future with the side prophetic look at it. So in that mindset, trying to read this not book by book, but by chapter or chapter by chapter, but just taking the entirety of it, all the verses, just how they intertwine together. And a couple things that popped out to me, and I actually verified this, depending on your version, it says immediately over 30 times. It said, depending on the version of your Bible, it says immediately. And I think the interesting thing for me about that was it's a sense of urgency. Jesus knew how many days, he had on this earth, how long his mission was. He didn't divulge that information or share that information with his followers or any of the people he delivered his message to, but he didn't give them that kind of insight. But he knew, I only have this much time left on earth, and so he did things with urgency. He did things decisively, intentionally, and Mark also kind of shows that. I felt like Matthew, and I've read other commentators say that Matthew really kind of looks at Jesus as king. Jesus is the king, he's the way, he's come to free us, and wrote from that kind of perspective. But Mark changes the perspective. In fact, it says in part of the passage, For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life for ransom for many. It's Mark 12:45. So he changes the narrative. So Matthew, in a sense, was more about the king is coming and that kind of thing. But Mark changes the slight tone of it a little bit in my mind. He says that something more up to the lines of this, he didn't come to be served like a king would be served. He came to serve. He came to lay down his life. He came in that respect, in that mindset. And so, and Mark is very purposeful, I think, in the way he writes it, that there is purpose and there's meaning, and Jesus tries to get that across to his disciples in that process, and through the miracles and through the stories that Jesus tells. The Gospels are kind of one of those interesting things. They're similar. Some of them have the exact same story. Some of them sound exactly alike. But some of them are written different, from a different perspective. And so, and there's intentionality why they put them on here. Because if you read a book, you just picked up a book and you picked up it and you read the first 4 chapters of the book were almost identical with slightly different variations. You would have thought that there was a typo, or the editor missed it, or when they printed it off, they didn't, do their due diligence and verify that these chapters got repeated. But the Bible does this intentionally to give different perspectives different insights. To say that there's always, the analogy I was always given is, when you witness a car accident, and you have like 5 different people witness this car accident, and you take a statement from each of them, they're all going to have a different point of view, a different perspective. And Jesus' life was so important to the movement of the early church, to the movement of the church in general, to the future, that I believe that they really wanted to give it from different perspectives, to relate with as many people as possible, to understand not that John's interpretation is very different than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're more similar. John's is a little bit different. We'll get to that when we get to John. But there's an intentionality to that. And so I think for me, I wrote down the challenge that Jesus presented to us in the book of Mark involves breaking out of those patterns of self-absorption and giving ourselves in service and love to others. I think that that's a theme, if you will, looking at the book of Mark and seeing how Jesus is showing himself as a servant. He's saying we should be a servant. The first shall be last, and last shall be first. This concept is so integral to how Mark wrote this book. And I really never saw that until I read it all together. And I think that's why, I've read the entire Bible before. I've read, I've done studies on pretty much everything under the sun. But when you put it in the context of a book style, I think it changed my perspective a little bit on the approach. And I kind of did some reading and looked at some commentaries and things like that as well, just to kind of see, is the theme that I'm seeing the theme that others are seeing? And it seems to be a common thing. Jesus is demonstrating service. He's trying to pass that on to his disciples, which I think is integral and very important for the church moving forward. And so those are just a couple of my thoughts. I know it's a lot of reading, and it's easy to miss days. I've missed some, and it's easy to go, this is all those chapters. But feel free to, within this, treat it more like a glossary. Look at it from the perspective of, I'm trying to get, maybe when you're reading a specific story, especially in Bible study or in a certain kind of context, you're trying to get the integral details of each passage. But I would encourage us to look at this more like a glossary, to not maybe necessarily the little bitty details that would normally stick out to us, but look at it from an overview perspective. And so it's okay, I understand the story, and I'm just going to kind of gloss over it, and read through it quicker, so I can get the themes of this book. And I think that helps me. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules for this study. You're going to get what you get. You're going to get out of this study what you put in this. But for me, that's been, I think, a helpful thing, just to kind of gloss over what's going on in this book and look at it from that perspective. So just curious, I'd love to see your comments, your thoughts, send me messages, how this study is going, what you've learned for the first few books from the New Testament, what you're hoping to get out of this. And so I'd love to hear from you on those things, and I encourage you to keep pushing at this. Like I said, it's not easy. It takes time, it takes commitment to do it. But I would encourage you to do it, because I think God will speak to you in your life through that. So why don't we just end prayer tonight? tonight. Heavenly Father, I just thank you. I thank you for each person that's watching tonight, whether they're joining us in this IMMERSE study, or they're just here tonight getting what I had to share with them tonight. Either way is awesome. I would encourage all of us to continue to push forward in trying to understand your word and understand who you are, and continue to lay that out for us. But I pray that the sense of urgency that Luke lays out, that Mark lays out, is instilled in us, that we don't know the day or the hour when we will return. And our mission and our purpose is to love people, is to help people, and to give us that urgency, to not wait or put it off another day, but to see that each day is important. Lord, I thank you for that. I just pray that you continue to speak through this study and this time. In Jesus' name.